In this video, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at some of the documents that show how there were gas chambers at Auschwitz. The Nazis didn't like to write openly about the Holocaust. When they documented it, they preferred to do so in euphemisms, and for this reason, the gas chambers at Auschwitz were simply called morgues on the blueprints. But adding the documents and these euphemisms together show us exactly what the Nazis were building. A particularly significant euphemism in the Nazi state was Sonderbehandlung, or SB, which means special treatment. While the word itself can mean any kind of preferential treatment, countless Nazis have testified after the war that it was a very widely known euphemism for murder. But for the sake of argument, let's assume we don't know that and that we can't consider witness testimony. So let's consider a document instead. In a report dated 8th of March 1943, SS Obersturmführer Albert Schwarz reported to the SS Economic and Administrative Main Office that on the 5th of March 1943, a transport of 1,128 Jews from Berlin arrived in Auschwitz, of whom 151 men and 492 women were given special treatment, and 389 men and 96 women were selected for work. And sure enough, camp records show that 389 men and 96 women from this transport were registered into the camp. So what happened to the 643 prisoners who were given special treatment? Why couldn't they be counted among the prisoner population? The report also mentions that 2 days later, on the 7th of March 1943, a transport of 690 Jews arrived from Berlin, of whom 243 were registered into the camp and 447 received special treatment. And sure enough, Auschwitz camp records for that day show that only 243 Jews were registered into the camp. So once again, why did the 447 Jews given special treatment go missing after they arrived in Auschwitz? What happened to them? A significant clue as to their fate comes from a prisoner strength report for the women's camp in Birkenau. It states that on the 7th of October 1944, 8 women arrived into the camp, but 2,394 left it. Those departures are then broken down into categories. 8 women were released, 1,150 were transferred to other camps, 7 died a natural death, and 1,229 were given special treatment. So how did 1,229 women leave the camp without being released, without being transferred, and without dying a natural death? The only possible conclusion is that special treatment meant dying an unnatural death. And where did special treatment actually take place? According to a memo from the Auschwitz Construction Office, in the Crematoria, on the 29th of January 1943, a discussion between SS Unterscharführer Heinrich Svoboda and an engineer from the AEG Electricity Company noted that Crematorium II's insufficient electricity supply would mean that cremation with simultaneous special treatment was only possible on a limited basis once the building would hopefully go into operation on the 15th of February 1943. It was hoped that the building would go into operation earlier than this, but interestingly, we know exactly what was holding it up: the delayed delivery of the electric motors for the basement ventilation systems. That's according to this report by Kurt Prüfer, who was the chief engineer for J.A. Topf, the company supplying them. So from these two documents alone, we can see that special treatment took place in Crematorium II, it was linked to the cremation of bodies, it required electricity, and it depended on the installation of basement ventilation systems, since according to Prüfer, this was the only thing preventing Crematorium II from going into operation. Topf, of course, built the crematoria furnaces, but they also supplied other items. In a telegram sent on the 26th of February 1943, SS Untersturmführer Pollock requested the company to dispatch 10 gas detectors for Crematorium II immediately. Topf had to procure them from other companies because they didn't manufacture them, and in their reply to the SS explaining how procurement was going, they specifically referred to them as cyanide indicating devices. So we know for certain that cyanide gas was being used in Crematorium II. Where exactly might it have been used? A letter of 31st of March 1943 gives a strong indication. It reminds the Deutsche Ausrüstungswerke, or German Equipment Works, of an order for a gas door for Cellar 1 of Crematorium III, which was to be built to exactly the same specification of the one already installed in Crematorium II. There can't be any doubt that these doors were gas-tight, because this door was specifically described as a gas-tight door in an inventory list drafted when Crematorium III was finished. In a memo dated 17th of February 1943, the Topf employee Fritz Sander noted that he was telephoned by the ventilation engineer Karl Schulze, who reported that aeration blower number 450 for the gas cellar was nowhere to be found, even though the firm had supposedly shipped it already to Auschwitz. This relates to the delayed installation of Crematorium II's basement ventilation systems, and based on the blower involved, we know that the gas cellar is cellar number 1. And on the 26th of August 1942, permission was granted for a truck to drive to a city called Dessau and collect material for special treatment. What was that material? Another memo authorising a truck to go to Dessau on the 30th of July 1943 specifically names it as Zyklon. Dessau was one of two cities where Zyklon B gas was manufactured, and another memo dated 2nd of October 1942 authorised the collection of material from Dessau for the resettlement of Jews. So let's take a look at what the documents tell us. In Crematorium 2, cyanide gas is being used, and a process takes place in the building which refers to prisoners disappearing and dying an unnatural death. The process itself is linked to cyanide gas and the cremation of dead bodies. It requires electricity, and it can't take place until ventilation systems have been installed in basement rooms, one of which is gas-proof and is explicitly described as a gas cellar. Despite their attempts to hide it, the Nazis made it very clear what they were actually building at Auschwitz, and that's no doubt why, on January 29, 1943, the chief of camp construction explicitly referred to a gassing cellar in the basement of Crematorium 2. Such words weren't meant to be used in writing, and this slip was so significant it was underlined in red pencil by someone in the construction office, with an urgent note at the top for the SS officer responsible for crematoria documents. And remember, all this has been established via documents alone, without a single part of the thousands of pieces of witness evidence, such as the testimony of SS officers like Hans Stark, who admitted inserting the gas into the gas chambers, or the testimony of prisoners like Henrik Tauber, who were forced to work in the crematoria, emptying the gas chambers and loading the bodies into the furnaces. So if someone says that there's no documentary evidence for the gas chambers at Auschwitz, well, that's just simply not true whatsoever. There's a significant body of evidence for it, and added together, it explains why over 1 million people disappeared following their deportation to Auschwitz. And explaining that point is something which people who deny or question the Holocaust have never been able to do.